I'm very excited to have this panel discuss a very interesting topic. Since 2020, Bangladesh has been a shining rising star, not just in the South Asian economy, but in the global economy. With a lot of growth in all the key parameters, GDP growth, per capita income, female employment participation, etc. And the emerging startup ecosystem has played a very pivotal role in that. We have seen more than $200 million infused in the startup ecosystem in Bangladesh across different sectors. The venture capitals, corporate tie-ups, as well as the angel investments have all contributed. There are more than 1,000 active startups in Bangladesh, and they employ a total of 15 lakh plus people in the country. Today we have with us some of the most active and prominent incubators from the country, and we want to discuss how can we leverage this ecosystem to better seize the opportunity and fundamentally build very sound startups in this environment. I'm going to introduce the esteemed panel that I have. I have first Mr. Mustafiz Khan. He's the partner at IDLC Venture Capital Fund and also the founder of Startup Dhaka. He's a serial entrepreneur, an angel investor, a TEDx speaker, and a fund manager. He has run his family business. He had a very successful banking career with HSBC and then joined IDLC VC Fund and has since done a lot of work in the angel community. We have with us Mr. Nirjhor Rahman, who is the CEO of Bangladesh Angels. He heads the country's first angel network. Before this role, he was the country director for YGAP, a social business accelerator, and he runs a very active network for early stage ventures across the country. We have Mr. Zahedul Amin with us, who is the co-founder and director of LightCastle Partners. After an extensive working experience for enterprises, startups, and government agencies, he co-founded LightCastle Partners, a consulting firm for inclusive economic growth of Bangladesh, and uses his extensive research experience to advise startups. And finally, we have Mr. Waheed Choudhuri, an investment analyst at IDLC Venture Capital Fund. This is the first operating venture capital fund, and Mr. Waheed Choudhuri has a lot of expertise in sectors like agri-tech, logistics, AI SaaS, etc. So I'm going to start with my first question. The Bangladesh startup ecosystem has seen an inflection point in 2018 with the number of investments and the ticket sizes really growing up after that. 2022 is probably the first year which is a little challenging year with funding drying up. What is your advice to the startups to deal with this particular time? You can start, sir.
Thank you. Should I answer in English or Bangla? Okay. So I'll go with English. So I'll mix English and Bangla. ঠিক আছে? So আমাদের IDLC VC থেকে we have invested a couple of companies. Truck লাগবে নাম শুনেছেন আপনারা? Truck লাগবে, logistic company. iFarmer, agri-tech company. Intelligent Machine. So these are some of the companies we invested in, and what we have seen is in the last, probably আপনারা মিডিয়াতে দেখেছেন that there is called funding winter, like winter মানে শীত আসছে, তার মানে things will slow down. So what we are advising right now is like whoever raise fund, we are telling them to kind of manage their cost, because in the next 1 year, যেটা আমরা এখনই দেখতে পাচ্ছি যে business confidence has gone down. আপনারা probably feel করছেন inflation বেড়ে গেছে, জিনিসপত্রের দাম বেড়ে গেছে. That means this is going to affect everywhere, not just personal but business sector. That means everything will slow down. So consumer spending will slow down, and that's going to be আমরা যেটা feel করছি এখন, what we have seen right now, it's going to be even worse next year on. So our advice to most of our portfolio companies is that minimize your cost. Don't hire people if you don't have to, and just manage the cost as much as possible so that you can ride this wave for the next 1 year. So আমি বলবো personally যদি আপনারা, if you're a freelancer, one of the things that you will see is that there will be a pressure on cost. The things that you used to develop for $100, it might be pressure of reducing the cost from 100 to maybe 60 or 70, because people just will not have money in their pockets. So this is what what I'm saying to our portfolio companies, like, if you have cost, manage your cost. If you have cost pressure, you have to ride this for the next 1 year. It's not going to slow down. Sorry to be bearer of the bad news.
Thank you for that, Nirjhor bhai.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you so much for having me. I fully agree. I think it's obviously a time for caution, and obviously laying the groundwork. But I think it was interesting because this conversation comes up a lot, right? And I guess my view on this also, and everybody here are entrepreneurs of different shades. To me, maybe the top line will slow down quite a bit when it comes to Bangladesh and the overall economy. There's a lot of headwinds. But then when we think about the digital economy, which we're all a part of, by way of different sectors, whether it's e-commerce, digitizing certain large industries like trucking and others, for you guys also, in freelancing, it's still a very small part of the economy. And to me, there's still a lot of tremendous potential. That's part of the reason why we engage in this sector, is that at least within Bangladesh, there's multi-billion-dollar industries that are extremely large, but highly fragmented, that are not particularly digitized, they're not particularly efficient. And maybe at inflection points like this, when customers, both consumers and businesses, might be looking for value, maybe there's an opportunity there for new businesses, new entrepreneurs to grow, right? So I think, yes, definitely be cautious, don't burn money, don't hire willy-nilly, and all those things. I think you always have to be disciplined. But at the same time, I think for entrepreneurs like us, we're almost too small to fail. There's opportunities to try to take market share from the bigger players that are going to be struggling because their large contracts are going to be going out, their government contracts are going to slow down, etc. So take heart, and there's always opportunities to build. That's kind of my advice to entrepreneurs.
So I think the previous speakers pretty much covered most of the points, but I would want to stress on a couple of things. Firstly, I feel that while we should be cautious about expansion, while expansion is going to be expensive and would require investment, but it's also a good time to reflect and see whether there are scope for improving the unit economics, finding out ways through which we can probably become profitable within a certain period. Because essentially, even if we look at pre-pandemic, we would have seen that investors would look for growth, the top line numbers. They're more focused on the bottom line right now because money is scarce, and on the other side, they are looking for a clear route for profitability. And that is probably quite critical for any entrepreneurs. So it's not just about growth. Growth is good to have. It's important to grow. Otherwise, the investors would lose interest. But it's also important to grow towards profitability and finding out or placing bets in such a way that people can become, or the company or the startup can become profitable in the near future. That's one point. Another factor, considering the overall macroeconomic situation, the situation can worsen, as we all know, with higher depreciation of the currency. As we know, Bangladesh government has had an agreement with the IMF for $4.5 billion of loans, and that this might lead to certain consequences. One would be the free float of the exchange rate, leading to a depreciation of the currency. And that might also be one deterrent for international investors who are planning to enter Bangladesh. So it would probably take the whole of 2003 for things to stabilize to some extent. So yeah, I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think pretty much is covered, but more and more innovation is going to come during this dry season, is in terms of how to run a business, more than in terms of business models. Like, a lot of funding has been raised to cover working capital financing till now. I don't think VCs are going to finance that anymore. Startups need to look for other avenues like banks or financial institutions to solve those problems instead of venture capital investments in the future. And also, in terms of number of employees, I think startups within this dry season, startups are going to rethink their model of, fueling growth with more and more employees. They need to be more cautious about that. I think there's still enough, more than enough capital in the market. It's just that investors are more cautious now. They won't invest as many businesses as they would have back 2 or 3 years back. So good businesses, for good business, I don't think there's anything to worry about. They should be they should be focusing on the fundamentals, and they will still be getting enough fundings.
Thank you to the panel for answering this from an insider's point of view. We got very good advice here. There are going to be cost pressures. The advice is to focus on fundamentals, unit economics, but at the same time, the digital economy will give some opportunities for growth, and good businesses will continue to get some venture money as well. That is very helpful. Thank you. Moving on to my next question. We have seen a lot of growth in Bangladesh in segments like e-commerce, logistics, fintech. The traditional driver for a long time for the Bangladesh economy was services exports. How do you tie the two industries together, and in your opinion, what is the role that the VC community can play for development of services exports?
Yeah, I think it's an area I don't have a lot of expertise in, and hence engaging in areas like this. But I think from the particular kind of standpoint of IT services exports, which I think we're most interested in, and there's a couple of platforms or companies we're trying to work with within BAN that hopefully we can tell about soon. But it seems one challenge in kind of growing the market share of Bangladeshi IT sector service exports in relation to our competitors is we don't have enough of a presence on the front end. So where the largest customers are, whether it's US, Canada, to an extent Europe, we don't have, for example, sales offices, sales representatives that can actually kind of go out and get these types of clients. So I think that's one large kind of challenge when it comes to gaining market share. The second is, I think, even kind of back on the supply side, right? Obviously, you have a lot of freelancers, which is awesome. It's a great part of the economy and the industry, but more consolidation. How do we kind of scale up some of these smaller firms, particularly outside of, let's say, Dhaka? How do you help them kind of continue to grow? I know you have certain solutions for that. I think those are two areas to kind of explore on the demand side. How do we get closer to the clients? How do we, because a lot of Indian companies do a very good job of this, right? They have front-end offices in these key markets. On the other side, so I think what ends up happening is sometimes Bangladeshi companies end up competing with each other. At least that's what I've seen from interacting with Basis or Bucko or some of those. And on the other side, I think, how do we try to organize the supply side a little bit more as well? I think those are two areas that's worth working on.
Just to add on, I think the outsourcing market in Bangladesh has grown at the individual level. I would want to reiterate what Nirjhor was telling. I think we need to scale up some of these ventures. For example, most of even the larger ones have around 500 to 600 or close to 1,000 employees, while an Indian counterpart would probably have like 100,000 employees. So it's very important that we focus on two things. First thing is helping these entrepreneurs through different programs so that they have the mindset or the capability to lead their company towards the next level, to the growth phase. That's very important. And some of us are actually helping out some of these companies to some extent, but I think that is required because you actually need to have the growth mindset to build this business, because the scalability quotient and the other factors are quite different for a service-based business. Apart from that, it's very important to also create more employable graduates, tech graduates as well. While talking to different tech entrepreneurs, we come to understand that they face a shortage of skilled techies or coders, and there is a scope for further improvement in our human resource management as well. So I think that part should also be addressed to some extent in order to facilitate the growth. One additional challenge we have, which is proving to be a big problem, is our proficiency in English language. Most of our graduates, while we have the technical engineering talent, don't usually have the requisite communication skill to win deals. And maybe that is also somewhere we can focus on in order to further grow this industry to some extent. So yeah, just wanted to add this.
So the service export market, I don't think venture capital directly can do anything about it, but indirectly they can finance solution providers who are solving problems of those freelancers and service exporters. Like startups like, let's say, Payoneer. It was founded, I think, 15 to 20 years ago, and I'm sure it has raised private capital before it went to market. So solution providers who are solving core problems for these service exporters like freelancers, I think venture capital, a lot of investment have gone into that market and will continue to go in that segment. There could be talent marketplaces focused only on Bangladesh, where Bangladeshi freelancers are providing services to foreign corporations, and there could be ed-tech platforms who are upskilling Bangladeshi freelancers. There are a few. I think Mustafiz bhai is one of the founder of Upskill, and then there is Airwork, who is trying to make a marketplace for technical freelancers for foreign markets, and other fintechs like Payoneer connecting with Bikash and other pieces of fintech problems. If venture capital finance can solve those problems, I think that way that would be more effective to contribute to the service export market.
I'll just do one. আপনাদের কতজনের কোম্পানি আছে এবং আর কতজন মানে ফ্রিল্যান্স নিজেরাই করেন? সো দ্যাট শোজ যে আপনারা সবাই সোলো, রাইট? এখন ইনভেস্টররা যারা হয়, যারা এঞ্জেল ইনভেস্টর, যেরকম আমার বাংলাদেশে প্রথম ইনভেস্টমেন্ট করেছি LightCastle Partners, জাহেদের কোম্পানিতে। ওরা যদি সোলো হতো তাহলে কিন্তু আমি ইনভেস্ট করতে পারতাম না অ্যাজ এঞ্জেল ইনভেস্টর। বাট যেহেতু ওনাদের কোম্পানি ছিল, আমি কিন্তু ওদের শেয়ার কিনে ইনভেস্ট করতে পেরেছি। ওদের তখন রেভিনিউ কত ছিল 2014-এ, জাহেদ? হ্যাঁ, সো মেবি কয়েক লাখ টাকা। এখন তোমাদের রেভিনিউ কত? You can use your mic if it's publicly disclosable. Range bolte paro, range.
Maybe around 50x that amount we made in 2014.
So যখন আমি ইনভেস্ট করেছিলাম তখন ওদের ইনভেস্টমেন্ট রেভিনিউ ছিল বছরে কয়েক লাখ টাকা, আর মানে বলতে চাচ্ছে না, বাট বলি আমরা কয়েক লাখ টাকা, বাট এখন বলছে যে সে রেভিনিউটা এখন 50 গুণ। 2014-এর যেটা ছিল এখন সেটা 50 গুণ রেভিনিউ, এবং সেটা হয়েছে বিকজ ওনারা ইনভেস্টমেন্ট রেইজ করে ব্যবসাটা বড় করতে পেরেছে। সো এটা একটা প্রবলেম। যদি আপনারা ফ্রিল্যান্সার থাকেন এবং যদি আপনারা গ্রো করতে চান, তাহলে কিন্তু আপনাদেরকে স্টার্ট আপ হতে হবে, where you hire more people and then you grow the business. And আমাদের দেশে what is the largest freelance outsourcing company in Bangladesh? Can you say? Anybody? Guess? Outsourcing করে সবচেয়ে largest? Brain Station, exactly. And Brain Station এখন যে পর্যায়ে আছে, they're planning to go IPO in next 2 to 3 years. That is something. So আপনাদের আমি যেটা বলবো, if you want to grow, you have to have a big ambition. আমাদের entrepreneurরা, they are not thinking big, they're not thinking large. So আমি বলবো আপনারা যদি grow করতে চান, it's okay to kind of grow with one person, but it's not going to be something significant. আপনারা যদি চিন্তা করেন যে আমার রোল মডেল কে হবে, think about brain station. How can you become brain station and employ not just few people, but hundreds of people? I think that should be the starting point. Like, how can you think big and think beyond just this solo venture? Think about, okay, I want to create a big business where I'll employ people. And if you do, আমি বলবো আমাদের মতো there are a lot of investor, angel investor, এবং এখন VC কোম্পানির আছে যারা they invest $500,000 মতো চেক কাটে। So there are opportunities যেটা হয়তো বা 2014 যখন জাহেদ শুরু করেছিল, there was no investor at all in the market, nothing. এখন বাংলাদেশে স্টার্টআপ বাংলাদেশ বলে গভর্নমেন্টের একটা উইং আছে, তারা VC ইনভেস্টমেন্ট করছে, তারা চালডাল ইনভেস্ট করেছে, তারা বেঞ্চ স্টেশন ইনভেস্ট করেছে, ট্রাক লাগবেতে ইনভেস্ট করেছে, যত আমরা নাম শুনি স্টার্টআপদের সবগুলো কোম্পানিতে স্টার্টআপ বাংলাদেশ ইনভেস্ট করেছে। বাংলাদেশের ইনভেস্টমেন্ট উইং আছে, ইনোভেশন ফান্ড, তারা 10 লাখ টাকার মতো ফান্ড দেয়। এগুলো didn't exist in 10 years back. So I would say start thinking big. Thanks.
So we got a lot of very deep insights, but I think the highlight is think big, growth mindset, and have a very big ambition. I'll come to the last question for the panel. What, in your view, are some of the growth shoots in the Bangladesh startup ecosystem that you see? And based on that, what is the advice you will give to some of the young founders that we may have here? We'll start with Zahedul bhai.
I can probably speak in Bangla because I think I'll have to address them. So, entrepreneurial ক্ষেত্রে আমরা যেটা দেখি স্পেসিফিক্যালি কয়েকটা অ্যাসপেক্ট আছে খুবই ইম্পর্টেন্ট। একটা হচ্ছে যে স্পেসিফিক্যালি আমরা অফকোর্স মানি ইজ ইম্পর্টেন্ট, বাট এটা আমাদের মেইন ড্রাইভার হওয়া উচিত না। আমাদের একটা পারপাস থাকা উচিত যে আসলে আমি কেন করছি। কারণ আমাদের অন্টারপ্রেনারশিপে যেটা সবচেয়ে বড় চ্যালেঞ্জ হয় অ্যাট টাইমস, ইট বিকামস দ্য পারপাস। আমরা আসলে কি চাচ্ছি, কোন দিকে যেতে চাচ্ছি, ওইটা ইম্পর্টেন্ট। এবং ওই পারপাসটা আমাদের ওই ড্রাইভটা ক্রিয়েট করবে যাতে আমরা সাকসেসফুল হতে পারি স্পেসিফিক্যালি। সেকেন্ড পার্ট হচ্ছে আমাদের অনেকেই ফাউন্ডার্স যারা আছেন এক টেকনিক্যাল ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ড থেকে আসেন, বিজনেসের আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ডিং নলেজটা অনেক সময় মিসিং থাকে এবং অন দ্য জব আমরা শেখার চেষ্টা করি। আমি সবাইকে রিকোয়েস্ট করবো আপনাদের ওই আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ডিং বিজনেস অ্যান্ড আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ডিং নলেজ ওইটা একটু ইমপ্রুভ করাটা জরুরি। এবং যদি পসিবল হয় ডিফারেন্ট প্রোগ্রামসে আপনি ভর্তি হতে পারেন। অনলাইন প্রোগ্রামস আছে, যেমন আপস্কিলের অনেক কন্টেন্ট আছে, ট্রেনিং আছে, অনেক এডটেক যেগুলো প্ল্যাটফর্মস আছে ওখানে অনেক কন্টেন্ট আছে। ইভেন ঢাকা ইউনিভার্সিটির যেগুলো কিছু প্রোগ্রামস আছে ফর আইটি অন্টারপ্রেনার্স, ওই প্রোগ্রামসগুলোকে একটু অ্যাটেন্ড করা এবং একটু জানা ভালো করে যে আসলে একটা বিজনেসকে কীভাবে স্কেল করা যায়। কারণ মুস্তাফিজ ভাই যেটা বলছিলেন যে আমাদের সবারই ড্রিম হওয়া উচিত যে আমার কোম্পানিটাকে অনেক বড় করব, ব্রেইন স্টেশনের মতো লেভেলে নিয়ে যাব, কিংবা ইন্ডিয়ান যেগুলো লার্জার প্লেয়ার্স আছে ওদের সাইজ আমরা যাব। নলেজটা খুবই ইম্পর্টেন্ট। এবং থার্ড পার্ট হচ্ছে স্পেসিফিক্যালি আমাদের ইনভেস্টরের পার্সপেক্টিভ থেকে ইনভেস্টর ম্যানেজমেন্টে আমাদের কমিউনিকেশন স্কিলটা একটু ইমপ্রুভ করাটা খুবই জরুরি আর কি, আমার যেগুলো মনে হয় আর কি। সো আমার এগুলোই মনে হচ্ছে অ্যাড করার জন্য। থ্যাংক ইউ।
What was the question? So growth shoots?
Growth shoots.
Growth shoot, okay. Like more specific opportunities or, okay, in the startup sector? Got it. Yeah, and I think, I mean, I would just go back to my original point, right? Is that if you just kind of look at the Bangladesh economy, if you look at certain large sectors, including, for example, logistics or healthcare or so many other places, right? There's a lot of opportunities across a lot of different segments for you to provide different types of services, digitally enabled services, and hopefully, gain customers, add value to them. Where I'm certainly excited, and I'd love to see more companies come out, at least within the market within Bangladesh itself. One, I think there's going to be more and more opportunities for fintech. I know IDLC and others are already investing in that space. I think that will open up more and more, because I think that's now become an imperative by the government to support more fintech. So I think that's exciting. I'd love to see more work. I know IDLC has invested in iFarmer. I think there'll be a few more companies like that are trying to organize the agricultural space, because that's a large part of the economy, and I think that's still, and it's not at all digitized when you think about the number of farmers, when you think about the amount of produce that's moved through the value chain, et cetera. So I think there's certainly a lot of opportunities there. So, but overall, I think just pick any sector, pick any multi-billion-dollar industry, and I think kind of work your way backwards as far as, what are the pain points, what are the challenges, and what opportunities you can provide. I think, you have to show a vision to potential investors, right?
Yeah, so firstly, from making that jump from freelancer to a founder, first of all, you need to identify a market, and the market has to be big enough. Market যদি খুবই ছোট হয় এবং ওই মার্কেটে যদি আরো অনেক বেশি কম্পিটিটর থাকে, তাহলে আপনার ব্যবসা একটা পর্যায়ে গিয়ে একটা ক্যাপ থাকবে, আপনার গ্রোথ এক্সপোনেনশিয়ালি হবে না, রাইট? সো এখানে আপনাকে যেটা আইডেন্টিফাই করতে হবে যে এমন কিছু মার্কেটস যেখানে হচ্ছে মার্কেট অনেক বড়, যেমন অ্যাগ্রি মার্কেট আমি যদি ধরি, ইটস লাইক অ্যারাউন্ড 50 বিলিয়ন মার্কেট সাইজ, রাইট? অ্যান্ড দেন লজিস্টিক্স মার্কেট যদি ধরি অ্যারাউন্ড 20 বিলিয়ন। সো এরকম বড় বড় মার্কেটের বড় বড় প্রবলেম যখন আপনি সলভ করবেন, তখন ভেঞ্চার ক্যাপিটাল ইনভেস্টার্স উড বি ইন্টারেস্টেড টু ইনভেস্ট ইন ইউ। সো এই জিনিসটা আমি হচ্ছে ইভেন আমার ফ্রেন্ড, আমি যদি এক্সাম্পল দিই, হি ইউজেস পেওনিয়ার, আপনাদের মতোই হচ্ছে এরকম ফ্রিল্যান্সার মার্কেট প্লেস থেকে শুরু করে, যেটা হয়েছে একটা ডিজিটাল এজেন্সি খুলেছে, অ্যান্ড মান্থলি প্রফিট খুব ভালো থাকে, and he is earning for himself and his employees as well. But is that a venture backable business? It's a no, it's not. Because firstly, ওই মার্কেটে অনেক বেশি কম্পিটিটর আছে, and মার্কেট বড় হলেও যেটা হচ্ছে যে ওই বিজনেসটা স্কেল করার জন্য যেটা হবে যে he needs to keep on recruiting employees for more businesses to right. So একটা হচ্ছে মার্কেট সিলেকশন, অ্যান্ড সেকেন্ডলি যেটা হচ্ছে যে ওই মার্কেটে আপনার এক্সপিরিয়েন্স আছে কিনা। এখন আপনি যদি সবসময় সফটওয়্যার ডেভেলপ করে থাকেন অ্যান্ড দেন আপনি যান হচ্ছে লেটস সে লজিস্টিক্স মার্কেটে একটা প্রবলেম সলভ করতে, আপনার যদি লজিস্টিক্স মার্কেট নিয়ে আইডিয়াই না থাকে, অথবা লজিস্টিক্স মার্কেটের সাথে রিলেটেড কোনো কাজই কখনো না করে দেখেন, আপনি সবসময় করছেন সফটওয়্যার ডেভেলপমেন্ট, সো ওই মার্কেটে আপনার একটা নলেজ গ্যাপ থাকবে, একটা এক্সপিরিয়েন্স গ্যাপ থাকবে, রাইট? সো ফার্স্টলি বড় মার্কেট কী কী আছে, অ্যান্ড ওই মার্কেটগুলোর মধ্যে কোন জায়গায় আপনি বেস্ট ফিট, আপনার সাথে কোনটা সব থেকে ভালোভাবে যায়, যেটা হচ্ছে আপনার এক্সপিরিয়েন্স দিয়ে ওর আপনার নলেজ দিয়ে আপনি সলভ করতে পারবেন ওই মার্কেটের প্রবলেম। অ্যান্ড দেন যেটা হচ্ছে যে ইউ স্টার্ট আ কোম্পানি, ইউ জেনারেট গ্রোথ, অ্যান্ড দেন ভিসি, অনেস্টলি ইফ ইউর বিজনেস ইজ গুড, investors will compete among themselves to invest in your business. That's the truth of it. Every good startups, investors are competing to invest in them. So fundamentals, business fundamentals ঠিক রাখতে হবে, market বড় হতে হবে, and make sure you are the person to solve that problem in that market. And I guess এই তিনটা থাকলে investors will come to you naturally.
I'll just add a little bit. আপনারা কতজন গ্রাফিক্স নিয়ে কাজ করেন? ফটোশপ, ইলাস্ট্রেটর, আর গেমস বা অ্যাপস নিয়ে, ব্লকচেইন নিয়ে, মেটাভার্স। সো মানে আমি মুভিং অ্যাসাইড ফ্রম আমাদের ট্রেডিশনাল সেক্টর, যেহেতু আপনারা ফ্রিল্যান্সার, তাদের আমি সেই প্রিজমটা ইউজ করছি যে আপনারা এখন যে জায়গায় আছেন, মানে আমরা যেগুলো পড়ছি ইন্টারনেটে বা যেসব অপরচুনিটি দেখছি, ব্যবসা যেগুলো আসছে, ফার্স্ট হচ্ছে Web3, সেকেন্ড হচ্ছে ব্লকচেইন। ব্লকচেইন কেন? বিকজ আমাদের যে ফিনটেক টেকনোলজি আছে, এটা আন্ডারলাইং ইনফ্রাস্ট্রাকচার হচ্ছে ব্লকচেইন। আপনি ফিনটেকের যে কোনো কিছু বলেন না কেন, আন্ডারলাইং প্রিন্সিপাল হচ্ছে ব্লকচেইন। সো আপনারা যদি গ্র্যাজুয়েট করতে চান ইন টার্মস অফ মোর অপরচুনিটি, তাহলে দিজ আর দ্য ফিল্ডস দ্যাট ইউ হ্যাভ টু এডুকেট ইউরসেলফ। আমি যদি জিজ্ঞেস করি যে আমি যখন এঞ্জেল ইনভেস্টর শুরু করি, আমি কীভাবে শিখেছি, আমার there was no school. I invested, I learned from my mistakes, I learned from my achievements, and then I grew. There was no school for angel investing. I went to various countries, spoke to angel investors, I asked for advices, and that was my GAN. Then Bangladesh VC investment. There was no VC companies. We were the first VC companies to establish. So what we do? We went around, talked with a lot of VC companies, asked them how do you do this, and then that was it. That was the foundation. I know that Bangladesh, there is a lot of resources, but if you are active, you're aggressive, there is a thing called YouTube. And if you just search, there is nothing that you won't find. And there is a thing called LinkedIn. সেখানে যদি আপনারা যদি মানে জায়গা মতো যদি রিকোয়েস্ট করেন, there is not a single person who will not help. I get message every day, whether it's meeting, whether it's suggestion, and I respond. And I'm telling you, if people ask you nicely, they will always respond. And people are there to help you. So my request would be, if you want to think about the future, don't think about what is happening now. This thing are automated. After the graphics যে কাজ করেছেন, AI বলে যে জিনিসটা আসছে, they will take this, automate everything about graphics. Everything about graphics they will automate. But so you have to kind of think about, okay, what's next? And the what's next stuff is the building blocks of the future are AI, blockchain, and meta. So I would say invest your energy and time on that, on the side, while you're doing your regular stuff. That would be my advice.
Thank you for this advice. I think we learned from the experience and expertise of the panel here. With this, I will call the panel to a close. I really want to thank all of you here to share these insights with all of us here. Really appreciate, this is really valuable expertise, and all of us are very lucky to be hearing you in person. Thank you so much.